don't fit in. And so you deal with a spirit of rejection. And when we were even talking about homosexuality, we were talking about, suicide, then you have to think about the enemy. And when I think about him as Lucifer, he didn't fit in. He was designed for a very specific, peculiar purpose to create worship and music in heaven. And for him, that awesome task wasn't good enough. He couldn't deal with that. And so he began to become a lover of himself.
Talking here.
So his homosexual tendencies of that I'm just going to be in love with myself and everybody who agrees with me and who wants to love what I look like and what I do. So I'm going to like you and you're going to like him. And because he was a lover of himself. And so he wanted what he was. And so those spirits that we deal with now that are so manifested in the earth, the spirit of suicide, the spirit of rejection, the spirit of homosexuality, they are because it's the manifestation of who the devil really is. And if we understand that he is chasing after you, so whether you feel a little bit alone and you have a thought and it comes to you and you're like, why am I thinking this? Why am I even, I grew up, I know who God is, I know he loves me, I know my parents love me. Why do I feel so isolated? Why do I feel so alone? But he comes to speak to you. He comes to, even in those alone times, you hear voices. And just as you can accept what God is saying to you, and the Bible says that sheep know my voice and a stranger they will not follow, you have to learn to hear the voice of God. Because it is that deep. It really is that deep. It's not something to take lightly. Oh, it doesn't matter if I go this way. It doesn't matter if I go with a boy, a girl, whatever. Because it comes to where we feel like if we can make it very carnal, and we even hear it at church. People say, oh, she's deep and mystical. She's too deep. But it's that serious. It's that serious because the enemy comes to chase you. And I know she won't mind me saying, but Sister Ashley, when she was going through, and sometimes I'm good at calling people back, and sometimes I feel like sometimes I have to step out of the situation. And I let the Lord lead me. But I was at the store, and I felt it so real. I called her, and as soon as, before she got the words out of her, she got the words out of her mouth before I could say it. But I saw the spirit of suicide chasing her. And it's a pursuit. It's a pursuit to destroy who you are. And if the devil can get you to kill yourself at a young age before you reach that purpose like you were talking about, it's a plot and a plan to get you off track. And so we can take it lightly if we want to, but the bottom line is it really is that serious. Because the Bible says we wrestle not against flesh and blood, but we wrestle against principalities and wickedness in high places. And if we think about who the devil really, really was, and how angry he is that he lost his position, how we are at church, But if you are the worship leader for all of the heavens and all of creation, wow, and you are rejected, wow, I'm going to chase you with everything that I have had to do. Wow. And that is when you have to understand that I am wrestling something so much bigger, wow, than Sister Bell. I'm wrestling something so much bigger. Yeah. And they are truly after not just my life, but my soul. Yeah, yeah. Understand that it is a fight for your eternal life. Mm-hmm. And the devil doesn't take it lightly. I was reading a book, but I was reading a book about warfare in the spirit realm, but how Christians take stuff so lightly. And so we all have a little prayer group. We don't want to be too deep. We don't want to be too rough. We don't want to. But the enemy truly has put his chess pieces in position. My God. In politics, in entertainment, in everything, in education, because he is trying to get you from the time that you start to not feel like. And I took my kids to go see Maleficent. Has anybody seen it?
Vontae, have you seen that?
I took my kids to go see Maleficent, and I already had a preconceived notion in my mind of how I feel about Disney. Grew up loving Mickey Mouse. Love Mickey Mouse. Yes. But I've watched as a parent Disney try to desensitize my children to witchcraft. Exactly. I watched Disney put Wizards of Waverly Place on. I watched them, there's all kinds of little twitches, whatever you want to call it. But I mean, they have all these shows to desensitize you to what the enemy really is trying to do. And so when I went to go see Maleficent, I was so frustrated because I didn't know in my mind how I was going to go. But I went to go see the show and I was angry because she basically is the devil. Right. She's got the goat horns, she's got wings, and basically the whole that the devil really isn't that bad. She started off trying to be good, but God cut off her wings, and now she's angry. You know, and that's basically what we're fighting with today. We are fighting with an angry, cast-down angel who is out to get your soul. And I would love to make it real cute and friendly, but it's not. It's really not. So as a parent, when you ask why we care so much, we care because we see. And we see and pray, you know, and if you don't have parents who are saved, I would assume that you do because you're here, but if you don't, sometimes they don't see some of those things, and they do take it lightly. So if you can find somebody that can pour into your life that can discern and pray, you know, even with my children, I have a son now, and I say it freely, but he was, I had a very hard time in my marriage when I was pregnant with Thomas, and I felt rejected. His father dealt with the spirit of rejection. I felt rejected at that time. And when I had Thomas, he was very different than my older two boys. And he was very emotional. I was the most emotional I've ever been in my life. When I was pregnant with Thomas, he was very emotional. And then as he grew, he just was different. He would not accept affection. I couldn't hug him without him trying to run away. And so in dealing with Thomas, when he got to be about 3, I realized that not only could he probably be labeled autistic, he had homosexual tendencies too. And I'm watching my son. So as a mother of a 3-year-old, you would think that you wouldn't even perceive that or want to see that in your children. But I saw the struggle on Thomas's life, and we had to pray. And so by 3, I prayed, and it was probably 3 months later, my mother-in-law said, "What did you do? Why is he so different?" Because he was hugging you. He was a hugger. And he still is a hugger. He's probably the most kissy, huggiest kid I've got now, and he's 9. But I had to pray and deal with the fact that I saw that my son was dealing with rejection. And he's 3, and I can ignore it and ignore it and ignore it and ignore it until he's, you know, 17, 18, and finding somebody else to answer those questions for
My
me.
God.
But I wanted to deal with that situation where it was. And then he was 5, and we had lived here. And I was standing in a Big 5 sporting goods store, and the boys were teasing and saying, "Thomas is looking at girl stuff, Mommy. Thomas is looking at girl stuff." And I pulled him aside and I said, "Thomas, God made you just the way you are. He didn't want you to be a girl. He wanted you to be a boy. And I know you." And he had a little sister, and she was getting a lot of attention. But the bigger issue was that he was dealing with a spirit of rejection that was spiritually implanted because of what I went through during my pregnancy. And so when I said, "Thomas," and he was 5, I said, "Thomas, God loves you. He wants you to be a girl, not a boy." But I was talking to Thomas. I said, "He wanted you to be a boy. He made you just the way you are." And he, 5 years old, looked at me at the store, tears rolling down his eyes. You would think a 5-year-old wouldn't understand that, but he absolutely received that in his spirit because he was dealing with him not being good enough, him feeling rejected, him feeling like he should have been a girl and not a boy. And as a parent, caring enough to know that I see that in my child. I see that you're dealing with depression. And so we have to care because we're fighting. We're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for your souls. And it is so important. It is so important. So if you can be there, if you can be present, even at that young age, because I know when I was 14, I wasn't that present. I was everywhere. But it's such a pursuit of your life. And so when I called Sister Ashley, I said, "I see the spirit of suicide chasing you.
My God.
And just as you want to be delivered from homosexuality, just as you want to be delivered from these feelings, you have to know that you're going to have to chase God with the same fervor that these spirits are chasing you. Because they are so intentional." And so, I'm sorry.
No.
But I have to say that as a mother and as somebody who, I understand. I really do. And to give my testimony, I'll be here for the rest of the day. But I understand how the enemy pursues us. And so it's important as youth leaders, I'm so excited for you all. And just what you have learned and what you have experienced, continue to share, continue to pour it in. Because we do overcome. We absolutely overcome. But we're fighting for our lives.